Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Holly Wharton. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999, and I know firsthand how difficult it can be to build a business without the right mindset. This is a podcast for those of us who struggle with showing up in our business with confidence and authenticity, who resist taking big action because of fears and doubts, who know deep down that it's possible to create something bigger, and yet you're not. This podcast combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business more easily in a way that feels aligned. This podcast features solo shows with me and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world, including my monthly co-hosted episodes with Joe Casey. My goal is to help you grow your business more quickly and easily by transforming your mindset. For me, mindset work is a lifelong practice, and I want to help you make a habit out of mindset work. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's get into this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 238. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another co-hosted episode with the fabulous Joe Casey. Today, we talk about something that I've mentioned before, but we delve a little bit deeper into it, which is how to find the business model that works for you, as well as a style of working that works for you. Now, I've talked about this before, but it's so tempting to follow someone else's blueprint. I get tempted by it too, but I know that rarely works for anyone. It's actually a lot harder to create your own blueprint, but that's actually what's needed for the vast majority of people. So in this episode, we share our own stories, we talk about how our own businesses are evolving, and we guide you through some ideas on how to find your own business model. So what are you going to learn today? We're going to talk about the dangers of blueprints and the dangers of following someone else's model. We talk about why modeling others can actually be helpful in the beginning, but also a bit tricky. How to get in touch with your business model and your individual working style. What are the elements or different options that you can include in your business model? How to get clear on how you want to work. Understanding yourself and the way you work. We talk about things to take into consideration when creating your business model and the questions you need to ask yourself when you're putting together your own business model. I am super excited about this episode because I think this is worth talking about and repeating more than once. And this is another extended episode that I hope you find really, really useful. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Holly. How you doing?
How are you doing? Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. So I'm really excited to talk about today's topic, which is finding a business model that works for you and finding a way of working, a style of working that works for you. So this is a very timely episode, I think for both of us, but particularly for you. So would you like to share why we were inspired to talk about this?
Yeah, so my business has been very much focused on doing one-on-one coaching with folks. So I a full coaching practice for me is around about 15 people, and that's made up of people who are in, I have this 6-month, soon to be 9-month group program called the Supernova Collective, where people get a coaching session a month, as well as group calls and workshops and things. And I also have one-on-one clients on a 6-month program, and that worked really well for the past few years. And then, so we're recording this January 2018. So I have 2 kids. I have a 17-year-old and I have an 8-year-old, and we have the normal kind of coughs and colds and things like that. And, there's normally a fair amount of juggling that goes on. But this year, come kind of beginning of September, my 8-year-old was just off school so much with kind of chesty coughs, chest infections and things like that, and it culminated in her being in hospital in November for a week, and then we had several trips back to accident and emergency, and it turned out that she's got acute asthma, which was undiagnosed for a number of years, which is why every winter she was getting these kind of chesty coughs and things. And so whilst the prognosis is really good, it meant that I had to have a serious think about how much time in my business at a certain time, I was able to commit because I had 15 clients I was managing, and had a child off school, or I had, was in hospital, or there was just days when I couldn't do calls. And it kind of forced me to rethink my business model a little bit, and being so reliant on me being present at a certain time with people. And my clients were amazing. They were so understanding, as you would hope most people, would be. But even so, it didn't feel great to be having to reschedule calls and things like that. And it just made me rethink things. And so for this year, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be cutting down on the number of one-on-one clients that I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm shifting over to doing some more higher investment level done for you services. Like I love working on messaging with people, so I'm designing a done for you messaging and website package where you'll get your copy done, you'll also get your website redone, so it's kind of graphic design and copywriting, but also coaching around your message. And so that's going to be aimed at folks who are just that bit further along in their business, maybe like 3rd or 4th year, and they're ready for that kind of stepping into the next level of their business. And I love helping people translate that into the language. But that's going to be a kind of 3-month service where there is some coaching, but there's an awful lot of kind of done for you stuff behind the scenes, which means that my time is freed up a little bit. If I need to be doing stuff at 11 p.m. because my kid's been sick all day and off school, then I can do that. And I'm also going to be launching, in fact, it might have launched by the time this goes live actually, a membership academy. So that I still get to serve the people who are at the beginning or the earlier stages of their business, and I still get to have some hands-on, because I'm going to be doing monthly office hours coaching with people in the group. But it means that my time is freed up more. Not that I'll be working less, but I can work more flexibly because I can focus more on creating content, courses and workshops and resources and things like that, which again frees me up in terms of flexibility of my time. Again, if I have to, I can be doing that at 11 p.m. at night. Ideally, I don't want to be, but so it feels right for now. It feels like a really good move. And it also kind of forced me to kind of look at things like, doing this service with people who are that bit further along in their business and doing some more done for you stuff. That feels really good. And it's maybe something that I wouldn't have been brave enough to start offering had circumstances not kind of, been what they are. And I'm still going to be doing my group program, my Supernova, because that is just amazing and I love it. But it just means that I have a bit more flexibility in my time because I don't know if I'm going to be available in the same way that I did before.
And I think that's something a lot of service-based business owners come to a conclusion of, at some point in their business, like we're exchanging time for money. And while we may love that, sometimes we need to have some other kind of income supplementing ourselves, whether it's passive income or self-study online programs or something like you said, the website work that gives you the opportunity to serve people and help people, but in a way that doesn't mean 2 people showing up at a specific time for a Skype call and doing a coaching session.
Yeah, exactly. So I think sometimes these things are kind of dictated by circumstances. And sometimes it's more just that evolution of a business, and you work out, that there is a point that people get to where it's like, I can't earn any more money because I don't have any more hours in the day. So I keep working with this model. Yeah. And for a lot of service-based businesses, that is like the nirvana you think you'll never get to.
Yeah.
I can remember reading all those articles, seeing those webinars, go, oh, are you still exchanging time for money? I was like, oh, please someone just pay me for my time. That would be amazing right now. But you do get to a point where, you are limited in a way. And I mean, the term passive income always makes me chuckle a little bit. I am under...
Because it's not totally passive.
It's not totally, but it's not remotely passive, really. I think the idea that you can create something once is amazing, but then you have to be marketing it consistently. You have to be maintaining it consistently. It is a lovely idea, but there's still an awful lot of work that goes into it. It's just a different way of working.
Yeah, it is. And it's a more flexible way of working, as you said, because you can be marketing your book or your course at 11 o'clock at night, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at times that are convenient to you, rather than having to show up for a call with someone.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way that I've the reasoning behind why I've come to this point. But how about you? So you are also going through a bit of a changing up things in your business. So what's prompted that for you?
Well, I am, but I'm not as far along in the process as you are. So maybe this is useful for people to hear, because I don't have all the answers yet. I've not come out the other side of it. So, as you know, my first business was eco hotels, and nature has always been important to me, and the planet, and being kind to the earth, and being outdoors and walking, and all of those things are so important to me. And my husband once said to me, you love nature and ecology so much. Why is that not a part of your business? Because, of course, my business is business mindset. And that stuck with me like a thorn in my side, and it's been bugging me ever since. Now, I have a meetup group where I take women walking, and that's kind of like a hobby thing. It pays for itself, but it's not a money-making thing. And I've written my books about walking. But I've gotten to the point where I feel like I need to bring more of the outdoor stuff into my work. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know whether that's going to be more doing coaching and walking. I don't know if that's going to be like taking women outdoors when I do the business mindset stuff. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. But it's going to be more of the nature stuff. And I've been talking about writing a novel for some time, and I'd started one, and then I got kind of an idea for a new novel that's very earth-based and very nature-y. And so I think I'm going to be working on that. So my writing is going to go off kind of more into the fiction world rather than to nonfiction. I'm still in that murky middle where I'm getting kind of the hints and kind of the green flags of where my path is leading, but I don't have a clear sense of what I'm going to be offering or what things are going to look like in the future.
So I didn't know you were writing a novel. That's very exciting. I can't wait to read that.
Well, I'll let you know as soon as it's done.
I would be upset if you didn't. But I think it's really interesting what you're saying, because what you're describing is what I think happens to a lot of people who either self-identify or, we would identify as conscious entrepreneurs, is that there's this calling, there's this kind of, North Star, this guiding, whatever you call it, like universal essence or whatever you want to call it, that just keeps tugging away at you and won't let go. And it's just poking you repeatedly until you listen to it and just saying, it's not right. You should, it's like you said that, that you can see the green shoots, you can see the path, but you can't quite see what's there yet. And I think that happens to a lot of conscious business owners. I think that and it can lead to this real frustration of thinking, well, I've worked so hard to get to this point. It should be that I'm really happy and satisfied now. Why am I not? And I think it's because your kind of your inner compass, whatever it is that you are meant to be doing, whether you want to call that your why or, your guiding star or whatever, it wants you to be following that path.
It does, but it's also really scary because I have kind of pivoted in my business so many times. And so as I'm looking at this way forward and I'm seeing these clear signs that it needs to be more nature-based, I'm thinking, holy shit, what if my path is to leave the business mindset stuff? Like, I've been positioning myself as the business mindset person for so long, for the last, 3 years. And what if I drop all that and I'm doing, nature coaching? I don't even know, but like something involving nature and the planet. Like, what if it's a massive change? That scares the shit out of me because it makes me feel like on one hand, I would be staying true to my path and the things that are deeply important to me. But on the other hand, like, I feel like it makes me look really unprofessional. Like every few years, I just drop my business and change. So it's really scary.
Yeah, it is. And, and I went through a big kind of change up this time last year in my business. And we did an episode about that. And
Yes.
I think, I know that feeling of fear very intimately, very well. But I also know some of the lessons and the wisdom that people like you passed on to me, Holly, which is trusting that the universe, has its best intentions for you. And that, you talk about your guides, they're not gonna mess around. They're not going to be, leading you in a way that isn't the right path. And so ultimately, the closer you get to the thing you are meant to be doing at this moment, I think the easier it all becomes eventually. But when we're in that kind of messy middle and we're looking for certainty in a process that has no certainty, in a process that is evolving, when we're looking for this path and this kind of, give me the blueprint, I want to know what the steps are. That's scary.
And there's something that I feel kind of drawn to mention, because I think we've all had that client that like changes her niche every month or so, because it's like they try something, they either get bored of it, it doesn't work, they change again, they change again, they change again. And I think there's a difference between that, like trying new things, and giving something your full go, committing to it, being devoted to it, and then realizing that your path is slightly different.
Yeah, or the path itself is
shifting.
Yeah. So suddenly I'm the wise spiritual one on this call.
Excellent. Give it to me, Jo.
So my gut feeling, for what it's worth, says that you're not going to. So I think we have this fear that to evolve, we have to burn down the last thing before we can build the new thing. And evolution isn't like that.
No.
Sometimes, even though it may appear that way, actually it's just clearing space, and you are not going to totally lose the mindset work, because that's such an integral part of who you are and your gifts. So I think it's more that it's just evolving into the next phase of how you do that. Maybe deepening, maybe expanding. But I don't see this as being let's trash the whole thing that's gone before. But it can feel like that, because right now there's certainty around, well, I know how to do this. This is, I have my thing. But then this new thing, I don't know what that is yet. And I know that's really scary. It's like being in no man's land a bit.
It is. That's exactly what it feels like. It's like trying to train myself to pay attention to the clues of what's coming, and also being aware of the things that no longer feel right for me. So I actually just last night started 2 pages in my journal, things that feel right, things that don't feel right. And I'm just making a list so I can look at them and see, become aware of them.
Yeah. I think that's so important. That is such an important message for people to not just hear the once, because as we've been doing this quite a while, and we need to hear it repeatedly. And I think there is so much, we have quite a binary black and white world, especially now. You do it this way, there's a one right way of doing things. And it's totally not true. And I think one of the exciting yet terrifying things about being a conscious business owner, having a meaningful business, is that there isn't always a blueprint. We are making our own, is it, what's the word when they're map making? What are they called? typographers?
Yeah, cartographers.
Cartographers, yeah.
Yeah.
We're having to be our own cartographers as we are moving through this, because we're pioneers. This industry, this way of doing things is still so new, and it's still evolving as we evolve. And so, there isn't a blueprint. We have to go inwards and pay close attention to what feels right for us. And I think there's a real distinction about what feels right and what feels scary, or what doesn't feel right and what feels scary, because it can be the right thing and still be terrifying, as you've said.
Exactly. And I know we've mentioned that before, and I think it bears repeating every time that we can.
Yeah.
So you mentioned blueprints. Blueprints are so seductive because we see all these online entrepreneurs offering the free download, opt in, and you get their blueprint to whatever. And that can be so tempting because it's so easy. It's like getting a franchise of McDonald's. You take someone's blueprint, you plug in your special thingies, and you've got a successful business. So do you think there is any merit to looking at these blueprints or to modeling other people, or is it just...
I think they can give you a high-level overview and a guide. Yeah. So it's a bit like signposts on the road.
Yeah.
So, right, okay, so these people have gone this way. So there's probably a bit of an easier path that way. I can follow that, but actually I think I just need to take this little bit deviation. But you have to be able to make that your own. And I think the problem is that the blueprint can only give you that very high level. These are the steps that one person took. Maybe even these are the steps that 100 people took, but that doesn't mean they're going to be the right steps for you to take. And it doesn't mean that they're going to give you the same results, because you don't have the same ingredients in there. You don't have the same, there's such a myriad of things that goes into creating, particularly a service-based business. So much of it is personality. So much of it is things like connections. Can you invest in Facebook ads? Can you, do you happen to know somebody who can introduce you to the person who does the featured podcast for Apple? Do you know somebody, so there's all kinds of these additional things that might have happened that meant that the person who wrote the blueprint, that's what kind of helped them to be successful, but they can't include all of that in the blueprint.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's always going to work for you. And the thing about blueprints, they can be a reasonable high level, but if you try and follow them slavishly, I think a couple of things happen. One, you get really disappointed really quickly. Because it's not working. I can remember following a blueprint to do a tele summit. I mean, this is going back like 6 or 7 years, and it went just so badly wrong on so many levels. Things like, I'd forgotten to hit record when I was recording some of the interviews, and had to go back and re-record them. And I had no idea how to, write sample emails that people could share and things like that. But I was following this blueprint, which was apparently going to get me at least 1,000 people on my email list. And when I was starting out, despite the fact that, I had no clue who my client was or who I was working with or anything like that, I knew I needed to be building an email list. And it was so much work. I cried so many times. There were so many 2 a.m. things with it. Do you know how many people I added to my email list?
How many?
62.
Ooh. Well, 62 is better than 0. You put in effort
is
and you
better
got
than
62.
0, but it felt like such an enormous, great big failure. I mean, yes, I made so many mistakes and things, but I think it kind of has this double layer if we're not careful. The first is that we think we're failures.
Yes.
And the second is that we get really cynical about all the information out there and all the help out there. And that's because a lot of these things are oversold, because one of the things that marketers are really good at doing is giving you the best possible outcome for their, for whatever their product is. So, they're the two kind of big dangers with blueprints. The other one, I think, is that it takes us away from listening to that inner compass.
Yes.
And that voice that is saying, this feels right, this feels off. And so we carry on doing the things that feel off because, well, it's in the blueprint. such and such did it. They're saying that we should be doing it.
And that's giving the other person responsibility for your business.
Mm-hmm. And I think it waters down our essence. And whether you talk about, essence being, some ephemeral kind of spiritual thing, or essence just being, your personality, your style, your brand, if you like, in the world, it waters it down because you can't be yourself. And that's so important. Okay, so I think it's also important to talk about our way of working, our particular style of working, because there's also a lot of stuff out there about how you should be doing things.
Yeah.
And we were kind of laughing a little bit before we started recording about, I've been looking at these bullet journals because they seem to be everywhere at the moment. And so I was watching the little video about how to do it, and I was like, oh, that is just the antithesis of how I work. And yet I know so many people who love them.
Yeah. They're gorgeous.
They are.
Every time I see them, I think, oh, that's so beautiful. I don't want to do one.
No, because
not for me.
No, I know for me that if I have, even things like to-do lists, they are necessities to kind of keep me on track. I take no pleasure in them at all. And yet I know other people who love their to-do list, who love their bullet journal, who love nothing more than ticking something off their list. And that's not me. I actually find it really, really restrictive. I have a client that I'm working with at the moment who is quite similar to me, and she's has this big project, and so we've been chunking it down and things. She's going, it feels just so overwhelming, and so rather than list it out, she did it as this beautiful, almost 3-dimensional, like a mind map. And so rather than...
I hate mind maps.
Oh, do you?
I hate them.
Well,
but they're lovely.
For some of us, that it's the process of so yeah. I can't get on with doing them on a screen or anything, but there's something about physically taking bits of paper and post-it notes and things like that, and physically moving things about, because I have quite a kinesthetic learning preference. That can be really useful and just suits the way that I work. And my client was similar, and so rather than it being this chronological like project plan, I have to do this and then this and then this and then this, we've taken it back to bringing back the element of play and creativity. Which is, she's gonna for each kind of section of this project, she looks at this kind of mind map, this plan, and she thinks, which one am I called to do? Which one feels like most fun right now? And that's the one that she's working on. And so it's just a different way of approaching it, because otherwise it just feels heavy and constrictive, and so it's just finding the way that works for you. Now, if you went to some productivity expert, they would probably say, oh, that's not a good way to do it. You need to be, using Trello or, Asana or, but that's not going to work for everyone. I think it's important to be able to have the confidence to say, I'm going to find a way that works best for me to be getting the stuff done that needs to be got done.
Exactly. So how can they get in touch with their best way of working and the best business model for them? Because I think, as you said before, the blueprint model is the easiest way because someone's telling you how to do it. But the way that usually works for people is getting in touch with that inner compass and finding what's right for them. So how do you get in touch with that?
I think it's a different process for different people, but there is something about having periods each day where you are still and able to listen.
Yes.
Now, whether that be journaling, whether that be walking, whether that be meditating or chanting or praying, whatever that is. I mean, for me, it's I meditate, I do mindfulness meditation, I do bits of yoga, I walk the dog each day. And so it's in those moments that I get my inspiration. I also think it's important to listen to where you find joy in your life and your business, and where you find whatever the opposite of joy is for you. So I know that when I have some some physicality, some freedom to create, a bit of space. I need lots of kind of space in my calendar where I don't have calls and things. That's when I feel most creative. That's when I get inspired. I also find that when I'm interacting with people, I like to bounce ideas around with people. So I have my mastermind buddies and people who just we will bash ideas around, because it's that kind of, oh, have you thought about doing this and thought about doing that? I know that I need that as part of my process, and then I kind of go away and work on it.
So you mentioned that you need to have downtime to have that creative process kind of bubble up and happen. Do you block out time in your calendar for that, or do you just let it happen naturally by not scheduling in too many calls each day?
I do a bit of both.
Okay.
So I have to say, if I block out some time and go, okay, I'm going to be creative there, it's a bit like lying in bed going, okay, go to sleep now. Go to sleep, But what I do is I do limit the number of calls that I do each day. It doesn't always work out. So like I do end up with some days it's just like, they're back to back. But then there's also points where you just have to go, okay, I just need a break. I need to go do something different. Like yesterday evening, I had a really full day, and I had loads of stuff I was intended to do, in the evening. I didn't have any calls on, which is unusual for a Monday evening for me. So I had all these things. And then I thought, do you know what? No, actually, you need to take a break, and your brain needs some downtime. And so I went and did some crafting stuff, and it was delightful. And I got, my cortisol level dropped and my stress level dropped, and that's when the ideas started flowing again.
Excellent.
So it's also about kind of listening to the things. Sometimes pushing.
Yes.
Is not. In fact, sometimes it's counter. It's
yeah, totally.
It just doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
But how about you though? Because I know that you have a different process. You do tend to block out time, and you go away for your like little mini weekend like retreats that you give for yourself.
So I do a bunch of things. I do my workcation weekends, but those are specifically for working on a project. So that's creative time, but when I already know what the project is. In terms of downtime, I usually go to, I started for most of last year, I was alternating between going to Glastonbury one weekend a month, and then the next month I'd go to Avebury. Glastonbury, Avebury, because those are my two places where I feel really just strong and beautiful energy, and it helps me to relax and have downtime. And then towards the end of last year, I started going to Avebury every month. So that's been my place. One thing that I recently discovered, as recently as last Sunday, I went on a meetup group that did forest bathing, which is a Japanese concept of getting out into nature and kind of bathing in the energy of the forest. And, that reduces your stress levels. The trees are putting out chemicals that can help us relax. And it's essentially just bathing in the forest energy as opposed to like getting a bathtub out in the forest. And I hadn't done that before. So I spent a lot of time out in nature, usually walking, sometimes sitting still, but I had never been guided to slow down in the way that we did in this meetup group. And it was absolutely beautiful. Like we did really slow walking. We did exercises to hear. We pretended to be a deer, listening to the sounds that could be danger, walking very slowly. It was just gorgeous. And at the end, we did an exercise where we connected with a tree. And that was where my idea for the novel came through. The new novel, not the one I've been working on. And that was just absolutely gorgeous. And I went away with this deep sense of relaxation that lasted all through the afternoon, evening, and into the next morning. It was just really, really lovely. So there are so many things you can do to just give yourself that time and space to let the ideas come in.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important part of running and building a business, is giving yourself that space to get the creative juices flowing.
Yeah. And it's really easy to kind of block out that urge as well by just staying busy. We're really good at staying in busy, especially if you work for yourself, because, there's nobody kind of shutting the lights off at 6 o'clock and go home. The office is now closed. You know, you can carry on working because technology gives us that opportunity to. But it means that we can stop listening if we're not careful.
So I think it's useful for us to talk about what are the different options of business models. So when people are thinking about what works for them, like what can they take into consideration? What are the options?
I mean, there's a whole host of them. I think there's a couple of kind of key questions to ask yourself. First of all, is how do you like working, and how do you do your best work, and what are the kind of circumstances that are around you. So, a couple of key questions that I always ask my clients is how do you like? Because I work with service-based businesses. I think most of the people listening to this have service-based businesses. How do you like working with people? Do you like to go kind of deep? So, you spend time with one person where you can go deep with them over a period of time. Do you like to do kind of more group work, which doesn't go quite as deep? So it's more kind of you can touch more people, but it doesn't kind of have that depth or longevity of work. Do you like doing the face-to-face stuff? Do you like doing virtual stuff and online stuff? Does your business and your modality and your methodology lend itself to that? How do you find most of your clients, and where are they? So there's a whole host of questions to ask yourself, because you can do one-on-one in person. You could do a mixture of in-person and virtual. You could do groups. I mean, this is all, with people who come into kind of contact with people doing kind of, touch. I don't mean kind of physical touch work, but, so like talking to people, or, so it's live, it's interactive. So do you want to do groups? Do you want to do individual? Do you want to do short term? Do you want to do long term? Do you want to do kind of deep, or do you want to do kind of, short? And so I've got one colleague who he does quick intervention therapy. He'll do 90 minutes in person. He charges quite a lot for it because he says, I don't want to see them again. In the nicest possible way.
Yeah. Like he wants to get them sorted and off and doing their thing. Yeah.
And then I can't remember who it was who was telling me this. And forgive me if it was you, Holly, but no, I don't think it was. It was a colleague who's another coach, and she'd met somebody at an event who was a coach and has been a coach to the same people.
Oh, yeah.
For like 20-something years.
Yeah. I think it might have been me. Yeah, it was the coach. It was kind of a friend of a friend who had her psychologist, her counselor had kind of fired her as a client because I think they'd been seeing each other for 25 years. And this friend of a friend was devastated, and she had contacted the counselor and said, can we start again? Like, please, like, can we keep this up? And I was just shocked that this therapist had let it go on for so long. Like, really? 25 years? Like, weekly sessions for 25 years? That's a lot.
Yeah.
I would not feel good about that.
I wouldn't, because I'm, I tend to work, I think a year maximum, and then sometimes people come back. But no, this is a different example. They'd met this, I think it was a coach, or it's like a therapist, and he said, how long do you work with your clients for? And she said, 3 months or something. And he said, really? I've been with these people for like 25 or something years. And she was like, whoa. And he went, well, how can you just abandon them like that?
What?
Yeah. So it's just like a very different way of doing things. So,
what if this person has some codependency issues?
Well, there's kind of all that. So obviously that's an extreme example. I would imagine, but so I can remember talking to another client here, and I asked her this question. She said, "Oh no, once they're with me for life. I want to be, I want to be in their world for the foreseeable future, because as they evolve, our work together will evolve." And I thought, okay, that's great. Whereas I know for me that a year is kind of the maximum that I want to work with people, without kind of at least taking a break. And I think we both need to go off and do some more and then maybe come back. So it's thinking about what's the duration that you want to work with people for.
Yeah.
And then how do you do your best work?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in person? Is it in a group? Is it, doing that kind of one-to-one intensive stuff? Mm-hmm. Is it doing it over a period of time? Is it doing it? I've got another colleague who has just started doing like weekend intensives with people and is loving it. From moving away from doing a one-on-one coaching model to doing weekend intensives with people. Do you like to run groups? Do you like to do... So there's all kinds of those ways of doing it. And then, having a mixture.
Yeah.
Do you want to produce content? Do you want to, have more of a teaching... a kind of a hands-off, a evergreen. What do they call it? I can't even think of the word now.
Like a self-study course?
Yeah. That type of thing.
And we've been talking a lot about service-based things, but a lot of us are creators. So do you want to be creating? Do you want to be writing books? Do you want to be creating programs? Do you want to be creating stuff?
Yeah. So there's all of that stuff, and that each of them will have different ways of charging, different ways of structuring, different ways of marketing. They will have different marketing needs. So, we've talked about this before. If you're doing stuff with groups or product based, then you need a larger audience because you will tend to be charging less than the one-on-one work. So you need more people. So you will tend to need a bigger list size to sell to them. So there's all kinds of things that go into the mix. And then, of course, the circumstances.
Yeah.
So, how much time do you actually have? If you're still in your, if you have a full-time job, then, can you really run a group program effectively right now? Because that's going to take an awful lot of hands-on work. You might be better just having one or two clients or producing a product and then marketing it. Mm-hmm. Until you can transition. So again, there's not a one-size-fits-all.
No, of course not. And you've also got to look at what schedule do you want to work. Do you want to be working 9 to 5? Do you want to be starting early in the mornings? Do you want to work kind of afternoons and evenings? Like, when do you do your best work in terms of time of the day? Because my brain doesn't work very well in the morning, so I don't usually start working or accepting calls until 11 a.m. So I think everyone's different in that aspect as well. And how many calls can you energetically take a day reasonably? I prefer not to do more than 3 calls.
Me too.
And I only take calls 3 days a week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday and Friday I don't do calls.
Yeah, I can remember buying a blueprint of how to market your coaching and healing business many moons ago. And the structure was, it was like you had a schedule of taking 8 calls a day. It was based on taking 8 calls a day, 5 days a week. I was just like, oh my God, I would have no brain.
Oh my God, I would be just shattered by the end of the day.
Absolutely. 45-minute calls with 15-minute break in between. Yeah. It was just like, no, definitely not.
And we had talked about duration, also duration of the calls. So if you do coaching calls or therapy calls, do you like 45-minute sessions? Do you like hour sessions? Do you like 90-minute sessions? Do you like VIP days, half VIP days? Like, how long in an individual session do you like to work with people? I love 90 minutes. Anything less than that, and I feel like I want more. But anything more than that, and I think I would be burnt out. So you got to play around.
You have, and I think that's the thing I want to stress. It's about really diving in and working out. And sometimes you won't know the answers initially until you start trying it. But what lights me up? What's the best way of working? So you experiment with it. You get the data. You then act on that data. You tweak what you're doing until you find a mix that works for you. And that's why blueprints are so limited in what they can help you with. And
that's why you've got to not be a perfectionist in this area and just pick one thing and do it.
Yeah.
Do it and try it and see what you think. And if you don't like it, you tweak it and you do something else. But you can't sit, like, I don't want anyone to listen to this episode and think, okay, so I've got to map out all the different options and I've got to get it right from the start and pick the best thing. No, just pick one thing and do it.
Yeah.
Just see what happens.
Yeah. And if you have a real strong reaction to it, then you can kind of think, oh, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But if it's just a kind of, I'm not too sure, stick with it for a bit. Because that's the other thing that you'll find is that sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of to bed in or iron out the teething problems until you kind of get something right. It's like, most group programs or most training programs that people run, it's not till you run it for like the third or the fourth time that you tend to have found, oh, now it's really working. And same with coaching calls. I mean, we taught ourselves a few months ago about how when we both started doing coaching calls, it was like you would pray that the client didn't show up because you'd be so nervous. And now it's it's just fine. It's just what we do. But so it's about also giving yourself opportunity to grow into these things, giving yourself a good run at it. That's the other thing that I see people doing so many times is like they choose a niche or they produce a product or they have some services and then 3 months later they've changed it all, and it's like, but you haven't given it enough time to bed in, to see if it was working and actually go deep enough into it to get what you needed and to start to build up like a head of steam behind you.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to say at the beginning. So like, it's not like you trash everything and start from scratch whenever you feel like it. It's once you found something, stick with it until it works and then pivot into something new if you feel the need to. But I have seen so many clients have that tendency to just trash their niche every couple of months. Yeah. Because it was too hard, or once they start realizing it wasn't easy, or, they just think, well, the next thing will be easy. Yeah.
And I'm saying this is the other thing that I kind of want to stress is this isn't going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. Yeah. And it's going to be glorious. Yeah. And you can have both of those things. But if you're looking for easy and, kind of instant success and lucrative, then you're going to be really disappointed because that's not how it works. And the people that I just love working with, I almost think it's like this industry, and maybe it's any journey of entrepreneurship, it's a bit like the universe starts you on a boot camp. And like when you see like an officer and a gentleman and things, and when people join the army or something, and he's in the Navy, isn't he? And it's like the whole point of boot camp is to break you so they can build you up again. It's like I think entrepreneurship, it will break you, and it's the point where you kind of go, oh, that didn't work and this really hurts and it sucks. And then it's, can you get up the next day? Because that's when you will have your real breakthroughs. What if you're still in that kind of, I'm looking for the easy way, the way that it's just going to feel easy and not like work. That's
not going to happen. And I think that's a great analogy, but I think entrepreneurship is even harder than that because the military breaks you. Sorry, guys. The military breaks you and then it builds you up, giving you their structure, their blueprint, whereas entrepreneurship breaks you and then you've still got to figure out what your structure is.
But it's great. Honestly, it's great.
We love it. We love it. It's just not easy.
It's not easy. But you know what? Life isn't easy. I think sometimes I sound like my grandma now. I think, anything worthwhile is hard.
Yeah, especially like a conscious, spiritual business that's, your business is forming you as you're building it. It's, like you feed each other and it grows you. And so if you're the kind of person that's consciously wanting to grow and evolve as an individual, like, your business is going to do the same. If you want something easy, if you want a blueprint, buy a franchise and like build a McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Oh God, I feel like we've really... Well, do you know what? If you listen to this and kind of go, oh no, that's too hard, that's not for me, that might be a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I think the people who do best in this industry, in this field, are the ones that kind of go, oh yeah, it's hard, but my why is big enough, my desire to do this, the calling that I have is big enough that I'm going to work out how to get past this obstacle and through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need some help, you can reference our episode on resilience, which is a great compliment to this podcast.
It is. Yes. God, I'm still laughing at your comment.
It's like boot camp, only worse.
It's like the bit in The Officer and Gentleman where he's in the mud and he's sweating and he's being screamed at by the guy and he's crying. I have nowhere else to go. It's worse than that.
And yet it's so much fun.
It is. It's so much fun.
It's so meaningful.
It is. And, we get to do things that light up our souls and touch people's lives and make an impact in the world and shift the needle towards kindness. And that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that we need to say around helping people who are listening to this, understanding themselves and understanding the best way, the best model, the best working style?
So there's a couple of resources that I like to go to. I'm a big fan of the Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Yeah.
Because it can be really enlightening to help you understand why you are more naturally inclined to do certain things and why certain things just ugh. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that that's your natural tendency. And so the more you can work with your natural tendency, the easier you'll find it, and the more you can kind of mitigate for the times when you're not able to work in your natural. So if there are areas of your business where, if you're not a very structured person, but, there are areas where you have to do structure. So like things like, doing your books or doing your accounts and things. It's like, it also shows you, gives you insights into how you can mitigate for that. So I'm a big fan of that. How about you?
I love it. We always seem to find a way to bring Myers-Briggs into an episode, but I've not actually done any proper evaluation of that. I've just done kind of the free online things a couple of times over the years, but it's always come out the same. I'm always an INFJ. So INFP? No, I'm a J. Oh my God.
You're a J. You're totally
I'm
a J.
I'm totally a J. INFJ. Yes. You're an INFP.
I'm an INFP. Yeah.
Yes.
And if these letters are making you roll your eyes and go, what are they talking about? Then we will put the link in the show notes.
It's definitely going to the show notes.
There's one, 16personalities.com does have one that's a pretty good one. What I would say is just use the online assessments as a guide. Take it with a pinch of salt, because to really get the most out of it, it's you can really benefit from having a feedback session from somebody who's trained. Actually, Holly, maybe that's something we could do. I could give you we could do a podcast episode and I can feed back your Myers-Briggs type and go through the Myers-Briggs type indicator.
I like that.
Should we do that?
Yes, we should.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Yes. Maybe that will be our next episode then.
So there's another thing you were going to recommend.
The fascination advantage. So Sally Hogshead has something called fascination advantage, which is less about how you see you and more about how other people see you. And it can be really useful for marketing. It is more of an external thing. And I think, again, with all of these things, take it with a pinch of salt. I do know some people who kind of wear it as a badge and go, oh, no, I can't do that because I'm and they'll give their type or their definition. There are a number of the different psychometrics out there. And then there's also some really cool, interesting ones, which I've not dove into too much, but I know there's kind of goddess archetypes that I know some people do. So there's a whole host out there. But the more you can understand your kind of tendencies and your most comfortable way of doing things, and use that to your advantage, play to your strengths rather than constantly trying to work against yourself because you think, oh, this is the way I should be doing it because, John Lee Dumas tells me I should be doing it this way, or somebody else, that works for John Lee Dumas because he's John Lee Dumas.
Yeah, he's different. He's not you.
He's not you. So it's the more you can do your own work about discovering the easiest way of doing things and knowing that you have options. In fact, you have so many options that can sometimes be a problem, but so lean into what feels good. Where am I at my most productive? Where am I at my most creative?
Yes.
How can I get more of that in my life and my business? Then that can put you on the path. But it's an ongoing, evolving path.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think the more you can get to know yourself, the better. And I think a lot of these things really help. I know Wealth Dynamics, and I think it might have rebranded itself as Talent Dynamics, was massively important in understanding myself because I'm a creator above all else. And it was like I kept having this compulsion to create things, but I felt like that was wrong. Like I should be doing client sessions instead of creating. But then I realized I'm a creator, so I have this natural compulsion to create. And once I started accepting that, that was when I started writing all my books a couple of years ago. So it can be life-changing.
That is really interesting. Okay.
I think we've covered it.
I think we have. I think this has been fairly comprehensive, and I will be chuckling for the rest of the day about that.
So all of you who are listening, go away, find your business model.
I love it. I love it. Yes, find your business model, do that exploration, start to give yourself permission to think, how does this work best for me?
Yeah.
Yes, take what you can from other people, but ultimately you are your own compass with this.
I like that. Okay. So that was kind of an abrupt ending, but we both just naturally fell silent at the same time, so we figured we'd just stop there. So I hope you found this episode interesting and useful. Please drop me a line and let me know what you thought about this week's episode. You can email me at holly@hollywharton.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and get in touch there. I would love to give you a shout out on the show if you send me your comments. I would also love for you to join me in my private Facebook group, Business Mindset Alchemists, so we can continue the conversation there. Podcasting is such a one-way conversation. Joe and I have just been talking for the last, I don't know how long, but we were talking at you. So we would love to hear what you have to say. Joe is in my Facebook group, and she will see your comments as well if you join us. So Business Mindset Alchemists is a group that's dedicated to exploring business mindset and how you can get the mindset you need to achieve your dreams in both business and life, because everything's connected. So if you head over to hollywharton.com/group, you will be redirected to the group. Finally, whether you've been listening to the show for a while or if you've just heard your first episode, if you're drawn to learning more about mindset work and you'd like to learn more about how you can work with me, please get in touch or head over to hollywharton.com/call and you can book in a call with me to learn more. I would love to work with you and help you transform your mindset using heart-centered energy work. And again, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a quick review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/238 for the show notes on this episode. Next week's episode is another solo episode with me, so I look forward to joining you again next week. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for the topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and learn more about business mindset, join my private community for entrepreneurs at hollywharton.com/group. That will redirect you to the Facebook group. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you so much.